Over the last 8 years, I have personally been responsible for over $200 to $300 million in email marketing revenue, working with some of the biggest D2C brands that you know in the entire world, meaning that half of that revenue has actually come from email marketing flows. And that's exactly why I wanted to make a single source of truth for you so you don't have to wander around, figure out how to build out flows. I'm going to go over the exact structure, the exact emails that need to be included in there, and show you examples of some of the biggest brands that you know and what exactly they're doing so you just have a plug and play system. I'm going to be covering the welcome flow, site abandonment, browse abandonment, cart abandonment, checkout abandonment, win back, and post-purchase flows. So again, this is going to include absolutely everything. Now, I do want to first distinguish the difference of what flows versus campaigns are, because some people think that they know and they don't really. Now, a sequence of flows, and for example, the welcome flow or the cart abandonment flow, they're essentially evergreen emails. They're going to be triggered based on a specific action. So you don't have to manually write these emails out. Now, if you're a D2C brand, you already know this. It's kind of like when you walk into a market and you're looking for milk and you leave because you didn't find the milk that you wanted or it was out of stock. Imagine as you leave that store, someone comes to you and says, hey, I know you were looking at the milk, but this is not a great brand. This is the brand I would actually recommend, and this has the best pricing, and I'm actually going to give you a taster just so you're really comfortable with your purchase. You're probably going to go straight back in and buy multiple pints of that milk. So that's an example of exactly what flows act as. It's a trigger based on intention, and you want to send a very specific message to those people. Because what the issue is most D2C brands rely solely on impulse purchases, because majority of their traffic is either coming from ads or organic search, which means that you're relying on the fact that on first impression they're going to place an order from you, which is just not true. And that's why most brands have a 2.2% conversion rate, is because they're relying on that impulse purchase. Whereas if you're including flows and you have these really specific marketing messages going to the right people at the right time, you can imagine how that increases conversion as well as increases CAC payback. We have seen that for most brands, when they have a really good retention system in place with email marketing flows, their CAC payback on ads is a 3.5x by month 2 or 3. So it is a huge difference. Now, most importantly is the welcome flow. For one brand, we've generated $249,000, and this is exactly how. All right, so starting with the welcome flow, this is the most important flow that you're going to have for your email marketing. This by far generates most of the revenue for majority of our brands that have high traffic coming in. And so again, similar to my previous explanation, it's because you're getting so many more signups and conversions than just relying on impulse purchase. So first, you can probably recognize this brand. This is Groons, and this is exactly how they do their emails. And I'm going to refer back to it every step of the way. And so you can see the overall structure, and I want to cover this first, then I'm going to show you the example emails, and then I'm going to build it out with you. So the welcome flow is always triggered when someone signs up to your form. You probably already know this, but some people set this up incorrectly still. You want to make sure that whatever your pop-up is relating back to a segment, which I'll show you, and then they filter into the newsletter. From there, it should trigger an email immediately. Now, keep in mind that with this first email, so many brands get this wrong. They're adding in a company story, they're adding in so many different fluffy elements that it kind of disperses traction. And so what we're doing here is we want to keep it short. We want to show them the discounts. We want to include reviews or UGC, and we want to show categories of products. So the reason for that is because people don't know your brand yet. They don't want to consume information about the business. They don't care. They came for their discount, and you want to make sure that you're also targeting pain points. Why should they trust you? So on first impression, you're showing them, hey, we have all these reviews. These are the people that love our products, and here are the products that we actually have, so that you're doing the thinking work for them. You should not show them bestsellers. That does not perform well. So first email triggers immediately. And you can see the way that Groons does it, right? So they base their sign-up form on a specific pain point. So when you sign up, you actually say, hey, yeah, I'm specifically, I have gut problems. And so they're going to send you emails about that. You can see in the top fold, they immediately say, hey, here's your welcome offer. They're kind of talking to that specific pain point, and then they're showing their review section at the bottom. Super simple, short. There's no brand story. It's not like this hyper complicated thing. It is very straightforward. And so that's what you want to do. Then what you want to do is you want to wait a day, and then you want to send an email to any non-purchasers who never came from their first email. And this one we like to make a plain text only email from the founder. And this is kind of like a personal touch point. This is specific, again, to anyone who has not placed an order. And so we want to make sure that we're sending them a reminder about their code in case they missed it. So, hey, just personally wanted to reach out. I'm reaching out because, you didn't get your discounts in the first, and I want to make sure you get your gift. This is kind of a blatant bribe to try our brand because I think you're going to really love it. So just a reminder, this is our code. Here you go. Here's the link to go back and browse our website. So you kind of want to add an incentive for pushing them a little bit more towards the code. Now, optionally, this is an optional email. You can send another reminder email to non-buyers, but this is very aggressive. At this point, if someone hasn't purchased yet, it's because they haven't seen something that they like. And so what we'll do is we'll wait 3 days before we send the next email. Sometimes 2, sometimes 1. It depends on your brand. I would actually recommend changing this to 2. And then in this email, this is where we're actually going to say a little bit more about the brand. We want to get them to buy into the brand and not just the product. So here's where we reiterate transparency. How is our product different? Who are we? Who's behind the brand? That's where we introduce the team. We tell a little bit of a story. Or we include a dosage guide. Sometimes we'll split this up and we'll do this in the next email. Then to all of the buyers and pretty much everyone that has now reached this point, we like to do a plain text email from the founder. This is a personal note. It's just a thank you message saying, hey, I just really want to sincerely reach out and say thank you for joining our brand. It makes a big difference to us, blah, blah, blah. In the next few days, you're going to get campaigns from us. We want to make sure we're targeting you. So blah, blah, blah. You can select your interest. There's a few different ways you can go about it. Now, the way that Groons does it is, number 1, they send their first email. Number 2, they're going to send a reminder email saying, hey, we know you were checking us out. This is how we are different. This is what we do. This is who we are. And then they like to show, a few different products, brain support. So they're sending like all these emails. I personally think that this structure is a little bit more all-inclusive to multiple different brands. So if you're running a jewelry brand, you can follow this exact same structure. So let's swap over and let's take a look at how we can actually set this up. All right, so what we want to do is we want to open up Klaviyo, which is our ESP, and we're going to navigate to the flow section. Then we're going to come here, we're going to create a flow, and it will come up with a bunch of templates, but I personally always like to build my own because it gets a little bit complicated, it leaves room for error, but you can choose one of their presets if you want. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this welcome mailsy, and we're just going to create this. Now, what's going to happen is you can choose your trigger. Now, remember, the trigger based on this is that if anyone joins that sign-up form and they're then added to the list. So we want to add them to a list, and this is going to be our email list. It's going to be the welcome or the email list that's named here. We're going to save this. Perfect. So we're going to save that. And then what we want to go ahead and do is we want to make sure that the first email triggers immediately. And here we just want to make sure that we're turning this off. This is so important. You always want to turn smart sending off for your sends because otherwise you're going to dilute a lot of your results. So that's perfect. Then what we're going to do is we want to add a time delay. So this is just the structure that I showed you earlier. Super simple. We're following exactly this. So we want to make sure that we're following this 1 day time delay. And then what we want to do is we want to send our next email. And now this email specifically, we actually want it to be a reminder to non-buyers. And so what I'm going to do is before or after the time delay, I'm going to add a conditional split. And here is where I want to make sure that anyone that has placed an order 0 times since starting the flow is getting this. So let me say at least once since starting the flow. So if they haven't placed an order, so place an order at least once since starting the flow, no, they haven't placed an order. And so they're going to get this reminder email. So this is just going to be the placeholder for that reminder email. However, everyone else is going to start getting this sequence of emails over here, which is this, like I mentioned. It's going to be the transparency email. It's going to be the about the brand email, and that's going to happen instead. And so we do still want people that have placed an order or haven't placed an order to get these emails because it's probably most likely to convert them. So we want to add another time delay. And for this one, let's make it a day. And then these people, what we're going to do is we're now going to drag this. So we're going to drag this over here. And what's going to happen is all of these people are now going to start getting these emails as well, right? So super, super simple. First email triggers immediately, add the time delay, add a conditional split for anyone that has not placed an order. they're then going to get a reminder email. We don't want that reminder email going to people that have placed an order. It's going to be very redundant. And so we just want to make sure that that goes in. We're going to wait a day, and then we're going to filter them into the same transparency emails that everyone is getting. All right. And so here, what we want to do is we want to add another time delay, one more, and then we're going to add in our last email. Now, if you remember me saying the last email is going to be a plain text email, right? And just remember to turn this off, the setting, the smart sender setting for all. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, what I want to do is I know that this email is plain text and this one is an image based. So let me show you how to set it up correctly, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to select a template. We're just going to go off of some random one that they do, but we're going to create our own. And what's going to happen is we're going to now go into the image-based part of the email. So super simple. You're going to have your brand logo. You're going to have and drag and drop elements. But what we like to do personally is we like to go and design our emails in Figma like we have for these brands, right? So you can see all of these elements are designed by us. And so what we like to do is we like to make sure that we just basically slice this. So if you have Figma and you use Figma, you just press S on your keyboard and you can then slice your images so that it's a clean cut, okay? And you can go over here, you can do this, cool. And again, over here, perfect. And so what you can go ahead and do is if you click on this element and we open up our side panel here, you can just export these slices, right? So it's super, super simple. We export these as images. You can just export, it's going to download, and you can come over here, and what you're going to do is you're just going to drag and drop some image based columns. So you just copy paste that. Perfect. And then what you're going to do is you're literally just going to upload those images so that it is all super, super simple. So you can come in here, you can search for the images that you've used. So for example, the Gruns one or whatever it is, and you can just go and paste those elements, right? This is what all the big brands do. They all copy paste images into their emails so that you have more design control. And so that's what they do. So that's for the image-based email. I have another video on exactly this. All right, now email number 4 is super simple. We're going to make it a plain text email. And so you want to click on this, you're going to click the 3 dots, and you're going to say create text only email. It's all that there is to it. And so you want to make sure that you format this correctly. So keep it at 16, but we recommend changing the font so it seems more natural. You can put any copy that you want, but it's that simple to set up a plain text email. I have another video that goes way more in detail about this, but this is all you need. So pretty much you have the entire welcome flow completely set. Now what I want to do is let me cover the cart abandonment and the checkout abandonment. Now the cart abandonment and the checkout abandonment are 2 separate flows. They have different triggers and they have different intentions. So what the difference is your intention with that brand. And so what that means is with the cart abandonment, you're just simply adding something to your cart, and then with the checkout, you're going all the way to the billing page. So if we open up a website like Olipop, let's go to the shop section, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to click on Classic Grape. We're going to add a 12 pack, and this is adding it to your cart. And people that add to cart, they leave at this point. They don't take any further steps. They add something, so let's just add this and this. And so now we got multiple products in our cart, and a lot of the time people are doing this to see what the total will add up to for the things that they want. So you can see $107. Let's say that's a little bit too high for me. I'm going to now leave because I don't really care for that. That is a cart abandonment. And checkout abandonment is if I've done all of this and then I proceed to checkout, which means that I've taken the extra step, which is higher intention, to go and actually fill in my information. Here is where I fill out the code and fill in my billing information. So there are 2 separate intentions. The first time, I'm just kind of looking for pricing. I'm trying to, shop around, add a wish list. The second step in going into the checkout, I am right there. I have full intention of buying these products, but at this point, I also needed to figure out what my shipping costs are. So here is where shipping costs are outlined and a little bit more transparent, and also whether my code is working or not. So there's a lot of different thinking patterns there. So when we think about the cart abandonment and we think about the thought process behind it, you can see there is a different intention and a different structure. So when we look at the cart abandonment, you can see the main reasons for abandonment is that they didn't like the cost. They just want to keep a wish list of items. It's a complicated process, so it's not very clear how they get to the next step. And maybe there's website difficulties, and most importantly, they are just not ready to purchase. So there's some buyer's remorse. In the time that they've seen the price, they're like, is this really worth it? Is it a brand that I trust? All these thoughts are going through their brain, but they are of high intention. And so when we take a look at the structure of it, it is pretty simple. When someone adds to their cart, we want to trigger an email about 40 minutes later. So we want to capture them in a short time period. Most brands do this wrong and they have a 2-hour time delay. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we're sending an email that essentially tells them, hey, your order is ready to ship. This is the best working subject line. We've tried so many. This is by far the best. And number one, it's showing what they left behind. Number two, we want to mention reviews. We don't want to show any other products. We're just showing them what they left behind. I'm going to show you how to build it out correctly because, again, most brands don't even know they built it out wrong. Then you want to wait 4 hours or 2 hours, and then you're going to send another email. And this one is when you introduce an offer, you push a little bit of urgency, and you're specific about the difference of why our brand is better than theirs or another brand's, etc., etc. Then we're going to wait a day and we're going to push another offer, but this time we're going to make it only a 3-hour push so that we add some urgency. What we like to do is we do like to split test this first email as a plain text versus an image based, and then we'll take that winner and we'll split test the same on email number 2. So I'll go over all these filters. I'll go over exactly how to build out, but first I want to show you what Grunes does. So what Grunes does really well is they do exactly the same thing. So they always say, hey, you left this behind, your cart is waiting for you, complete your order. In the first 5 seconds of opening the email, you can see exactly your call to action. Complete your order instead of, hey, shop now. They're making sure that you know that you've left something behind, and they're pretty much packing it for you. And they show you exactly what you left behind. They send you this email, another CTA. And then at the bottom, they're showing the differences of their brand versus others, which is super, super important. Then the second email, again, complete your order now and you get to save more. They are then showing you exactly what you left behind again. And most importantly, they're showing you the proof of real people using the products. UGC goes a really long way. And they're showing you exactly why most people, so maybe a pain point, for example, is if this is a healthy gummy, is it even tasty? Is it really worth my time? Because what if it tastes bad? And so they're countering that by saying, hey, they don't return their gummies because they just like them. And so all of these pain points are now mentioned. Email number 3, they're mentioning it again. So these brands, they tend to send a lot more emails. I wouldn't recommend that. Just as a starting point, it's so safe to just send 3 of them. They just do it very strategically. They've obviously got a lot of data on it. But for the most part, they're just countering a lot of the pain points that you encounter during this process. So let me show you the difference of how to set up correctly, because that's going to make a big difference to how your revenue performs. And again, just navigate to flows, and then we're going to create a flow. Now, personally, I prefer to build my own flow, but I do recommend that you start with going with their cart abandonment. So you can just search which ones you like the most, but we just want to add a cart abandonment email flow. So let's go look at the structure of this one. This one is perfect. We're going to use this template. So I do have another video of building it from scratch, but their template just works very safely because they've already pre-added everything. And so there's a few elements with setting this up first before anything else. The most important thing is the filters, so make sure to pay attention to this. They've just added this new feature where you allow people to re-enter this. So we like to choose that we allow re-entry after a certain date. And what this means is basically, let's just say I abandoned my cart today. If you have this call set as no entry, if I abandon my cart today and I abandon it again in 2 months, I'm never going to get a reminder email again. We don't want that to be the case. We want to make sure that they are getting reminder emails. And so we say allow re-entry after a specific amount of days. We like to choose 15, for example. Okay. And then the profile filters is the next most important thing. These are all pretty much correct. So what you want to do is you want to make sure, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. You want to make sure that these people have started checkout 0 times, which means they haven't gone to that extra step that I spoke about. They haven't gone to that final billing page. We want to make sure that they're not overlapping and they're not getting the incorrect messaging. So we're going to turn that off. Then we're also going to turn off place order 0 times, or we're going to turn it on place order 0 times. So basically what happens is throughout this entire flow, it's going to filter out anyone who's performed these actions. So let's say that you send email number 1. If you've sent email number 1, and they have then taken and clicked on their email and placed an order, they will not get email 2 because they filtered out. And likewise, if they've gone and abandoned checkout, they're not going to get the rest of the cart abandonment series. They're not going to get either the checkout flow or the place, whatever it is. So with that being said, make sure that these filters are in place. That all looks good. Make sure they can go into re-entry. Then we want to change the time delay. We want to change it to 40 minutes. 40 minutes is the healthiest, like I mentioned. And then with email number 1, you can see that when you click into the email, the reason why I like to use their pre-built template is because what happens, unless you are pretty skilled with flows, is you can make a lot of mistakes. Now, what we really want to happen is we want to make sure that we're filtering the exact product that they left behind. And so you can see this block that has a bunch of coding in. So what we like to do is we like to save this as an element. So let's just say cart flow block, and that we can reuse if ever we do create our own emails. And so what's going to happen is this is actually filtering in the exact product that they added to cart and left behind. Likewise, the button, it's the same thing. It's got a very specific link address, so you do want to make sure you're doing that. So when we preview and test, if you want to see if this is actually working correctly, you can see it's going to filter in a customer profile, and it's going to show exactly what they left behind and what elements are missing. So if there's a missing element like the price and you want that to be included, you can just go and edit that and make sure it does actually show. So you can see here, I would just need to go click on this and it would copy that and I can just paste in that code, right? So it's a little bit more complicated. We don't have to go in and go into details, but essentially you could just go in here and paste this, for example, and then you have like a different element that will show. So if we go preview and test, you can see now it's showing the price, and all you have to do is click on the property. So it depends what you want to show. It depends how you want it to show, and make sure you choose mobile as well to see how it actually lands. But preview and test is going to be the best way to discover whether it's actually working. So that's how to set up your actual dynamic blocks to make sure that they're showing exactly what someone left behind. It's going to be the best chance at being personalized and showing them and doing the thinking for them. And then what will happen is we want to make sure that we are editing the next time delay. So I personally like to choose 4 hours. And then we're going to send the next email, and then we're going to add 1 more time delay and 1 more email. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, very, very, very important is on this first email, scroll down and make sure that you click skipped recently profiles, right? You don't want Smart Sender on for any of your high intention flows. So if it's a cart abandonment, browser abandonment, checkout abandonment, you never want this checked on. So just make sure you do that. What you do want though is you do want to enable UTM tracking. This is going to allow sources like Google Analytics to pick up where revenue is coming from. I do recommend you do that for all of them. And again, just find your emails that have this little clock at the bottom left and make sure you turn that off. And let's set up our last time delay and we're all good. So now the entire flow is set up correctly. We know how to do, how everything works, and we know it definitely works. Now, the difference between the cart abandonment and the checkout abandonment, like I mentioned, is that extra additional step. And so let me show you the thinking of what the checkout abandonment is. The checkout abandonment is a very different flow. So many people treat them the same, but they are not. The first reason for abandonment in the cart abandonment is because they didn't really like the pricing. They just wanted to keep everything in one place. It's way less intentional. But the checkout abandonment, they really did decide that they liked the pricing, they liked the products, and they wanted to fill in their information. But what happens in this next step is when you come over here and you fill out your address, it's then going to calculate your shipping times and your shipping costs. And so sometimes customers will feel like they're being penalized for abandoning or for having a different state, for example, and then the shipping cost exorbitant. It's like an additional cost they didn't expect and they weren't willing to pay. And so that is one of the reasons you want to talk about in this flow. As opposed to the first one, you just keep it simple and show some reviews and the product they left behind. This one, you want to make a little bit more of a nod and a mention to shipping costs, shipping times, and also, maybe they had some website issues and maybe it felt too long to fill out. We want to make sure it's as simple as possible for them. And so the structure here is slightly different. We want to send it a little bit sooner. So 30 to 35 minutes is perfect. And in this first email, what we're doing that's slightly different is we are showing them what they left behind. We're obviously showing reviews, but in these reviews, if you have any mention of shipping times and shipping costs being really good, I would include those reviews above all. And then we don't want to mention any other products. And then lastly, we want to talk about shipping costs, shipping times, and maybe a free shipping offer. This is absolutely killer in the first email. Again, those pain points are slightly different. Then we want to wait an hour or two. Again, staying within high intention. Otherwise, we're going to lose them dramatically. And this you can split test. But then we send a second email. And this is where we introduce urgency. We show some UGC reviews. And we also kind of display an offer. So maybe that is $5 off your purchase. Or maybe it's free shipping. Again, whatever mentally will be slightly more impressive to them than the shipping costs and the few issues that they had. And one thing that's important to note with the cart abandonment and the checkout abandonment, you don't ever want to replicate the offer that you have in your welcome flow. You never want to do that. Your welcome flow offer is typically a higher offer anyway. Most brands do this wrong, where they have 20% for their welcome flow and then 15% for the carts and the checkout. It doesn't make sense because if they didn't convert from the welcome offer that was a higher discount, they're probably not going to convert from another percentage off. So it's really good to test free shipping and test $1 off instead. Just an FYI. Now, with the rest of the structure, again, same thing as the cart abandonment. The third email is an espresso shot, and we want to phrase it like it's our best offer that we've ever given out. So super simple. Now, in terms of building this one out, it's got a very similar but different structure. So this is going to be very, very, very important because the codes are going to be different. So let's go to create the flow. And here, the difference is checkout. So search checkout, you're going to see that it populates differently. So it's not abandoned cart anymore, it's abandoned checkout. And so let's go ahead, and what we want to do is we just want a email flow. So what do we want to do? So let's just choose this first one. Let me go see the structure. So we'll go with this one for now. I don't like that it has a conditional split or that it's got an SMS, but you can choose the structure anyway. The main thing that we want to do is we want to go and make sure that we have a different, so let me just go delete the yes path. The most important thing that we want to do is we now want to go and look at this code. It is going to be very different, like I said. So when you come in here, you're going to notice some differences. The code is a little bit longer and a little bit more specific. And this is also specific. It is now, instead of event URL, it's event extra checkout URL, right? So this is taking them to the actual checkout page. It's taking them right back here where they were. You don't want an email taking them back to the website when their intention was way higher. You want to do the thinking for them. You want to take them back to where they were and make less steps for them. So these are very important elements to have. You want to make sure that that is in place. So now let's go back to the basics of actually setting this up correctly. So let's click on here, and we want to allow re-entry. We're going to change it to a 14-day period. Okay. And then if we take a look at the profile filters, you need to make sure that it is placed order 0 times since starting the flow, right? There's not too much else to add in here. That's really perfectly fine. Then you want to come in here. You want to wait, let's say 30 minutes. 30 minutes to match the intention. We send that first email out. Then we're going to wait about 2 hours. Send the next email out. And then we're going to add another time delay. And we're going to add our next email. Now this time delay, we're going to make a day. And don't forget that on all of your emails, like I said, turn off smart sending. So you want to have that ticked off. So that's about it. That is exactly how to set up your checkout abandonment. Now let's take a look at the structure that brands are using, right? So you know the thinking behind it. Now let's take a look at how Magicmind does it. Again, they send way more emails, but let's take a look at the first 3. So the first one, they're saying, hey, finish checkout now. And they're providing reasons for their product because they only have really one product that they sell. So they don't need to show exactly what they left behind. It's a little bit different. But what they're doing really, really well is showing the way that the product works and the timeline. So they obviously have a lot of skepticism around, hey, will this work? When will I know it works? How do I know it works? And this is doing all of that thinking for them. And then what they do is they say, hey, claim 58% off plus free gifts. You can see Groons did a very similar thing of claim 52% off. Then in their next email, they make it very clear. Hey, claim 58% off plus your free gifts. Here's what you get with our product. Here are reviews. So remember I was talking about buyer's remorse. They want to make sure that they can trust your product. And so they're doing everything they can to build that trust. They're showing you exactly how to know if the product works. They're being transparent about timeline. They're showing a discount code to try and get that, if it was a price sensitivity, that is completely ironed out. And then of course, if they don't trust you, they have reviews. So everything is completely laid out for you. Then the third thing is they're saying, hey, well, you can actually try it for 100 days risk-free. And so that piques your curiosity. And then they're showing you exactly what you left behind, and they're throwing in those free gifts. They're showing you exactly what the free gifts are. So you can see it's a workbook, it's an ebook, it's a 90 days free app. So this is really going to get you over the line because that one thing that you search is now backed by all these free gifts. So this is an interesting approach that I wanted to show you because I, while studying this brand, found it very, very interesting. So you can pause this video, take a look at the structure, copy some of their wording, and you can go from there. But now let's move over to the browse abandonment. Now with the browse abandonment, the browse abandonment is a slightly different thing to a site abandonment. And the difference is very clear. When someone comes to your website, so let's go use Olipop as the example again. Let's say I come to the website and I am specifically looking at the classic grape, right? So I don't add to my cart. I just come to this page. I'm kind of looking around. I'm spending some time here looking at whether I want this, and then I exit. That is a browse abandonment. It's when they have viewed a very specific product. The site abandonment is if I come from the ads, I land on this page, maybe I click around, I actually go to their learn button, I go read a blog of theirs. That is a site abandonment. So browse abandonment is when you view a very specific product. Site abandonment is when you view the website in general or very specific pages. That is it. That is the difference. It is very clear. And so again, there's different pain points for these. The reason for people browsing the website is because they probably thought they liked a product, but they didn't see something they liked. They don't know how to use it. They don't know if they trust it enough. And they also don't get the information that they need about the brand to make a decision. And aside from that, they're probably just comparing products and prices, right? So there's quite a few things that can cause this browse abandonment because they haven't taken that extra step of actually adding the product. So we can only really come up with what pain points they're facing at this time. And so the difference here is they are browsing and viewing a very specific page or product, and we want to wait 45 minutes. Now, then we want to send an email. And in this one, we want to show them reviews and testimonials. Number one, we want to show them exactly the product that they looked at, and we want to show them similar products. So when we show them similar products, we either want to show them categories and show them that we do have a variety of products, or we want to show them as similar products as possible to what they actually looked at. Then we want to wait a day. We're going to send a second email. This is where we're going to explain how our products work. So we want to do the thinking work for them. For example, if we have multiple categories, let's say that you have gummies, you also have sleep products, and you also have something else. Or you're a jewelry brand, you have bracelets, you have necklaces, and you have rings. We want to explain all of those categories and, for example, explain who it's for. If you're a clothing brand, think about it the same way. You have pants, you have shirts, you have maybe male and female categories. You want to make sure you're talking about who those are for. Do the thinking for them. Show them reviews. Show them the different categories. And if it's a wellness brand, show them a dosage guide so that they understand how to use the products. And then in the last email, you want to set this up as a temptation email. If all of those pain points were not enough, then you want to test an offer. Offer something like 15% off, a little bit less than the walk and flow works, or $1 off works really well as well. And you can say, hey, gonna be honest, this is kind of our blatant bluff, or our blatant bribe rather, to try and get you over the line. So this works incredibly, incredibly well. Now, the way that some of the brands do it is pretty simple. They're just showing, hey, we know you're still thinking about it, right? And so you can return to the product. Here is why people love it. So these are some reviews, and then they're showing what other products they might like based on the product they looked at, and we want to send them to similar products. The second one is trying to explain the way the products sound. So, hey, if you're this person, you're an overthinker, you're a restless night sleeper, or you're the go-getter, because we're trying to find our common demographics and find their pain points. We're then targeting that. We're saying, hey, if you're this, you need this, and this is the product for you. Recommending products for them, like almost diagnosing it for them, so they don't have to do the thinking work, especially if you're a wellness brand. You want to do the thinking for them. And then we go and we say, hey, if you're a beginner, if you're an intermediate, or if you're an advanced, these are the different ways you can do it. So you can do the same thing. You can apply the same thinking. The third email is, hey, your $15 off is waiting. This is the code. This is the reviews, nothing else. Super short, super simple email. That's the structure. So let's go and build it out. Now, when we go into the structure, again, you can use one of their templates. So let's go here and we're going to search browse. So with browse, you can choose whether you just want the standard one. I'm going to go with the standard one instead of SMS as well, just to show you an example. We're going to come in here. And here's where you need the most amount of filters. So pay attention. You want to come here. You want to allow re-entry. I would say 30 days is perfect. And here is where you want to add some filters. Now, be careful because their standard flow excludes one filter. You want to add checkout started 0 times, place order 0 times, and you also want to make sure that added to cart is here. So let's say added to cart 0 times since starting the flow. Now it's correct. So just be careful of that because they do exclude that. You want to make sure that anyone that added to cart also won't get overlap of flows. Otherwise, what's going to happen if you don't have these filters is, let's say that I am browsing and maybe like a day later I go ahead and, or not even, I browse and then an hour later I go and add something to my cart and then an hour later I go to the checkout. The issue is that I'm then going to get 3 different flows if I don't have those filters in place. So make sure that is in place. So with that, we're going to change this time delay to just about an hour. And we're going to send that first email. Then you're going to add the time delay. Make sure that Smart Sender is off. Going to add that time delay. The time delay, we're going to add a day. So you can see it's way less intense. It's way less pushy. We just want to actually try and convince them on why the brand is good. So then we want to add another time delay. This is going to be the last email in this flow. Sometimes you can just stop at 2, so it's completely your choice whether you add, but that is the correct structure. Now, the difference between this and the site abandonment is pretty clear. That is when they view a very specific product. And so let's actually go back to that one. So let's go to browse. So when we click on this, right, there's going to be a different code again. And it's going to show exactly what they looked at, and then it's going to go and suggest some things. So let's go into the edit. So this is going to be a different code to the cart abandonment and the checkout abandonment. So you can see that it's just taking you back to the exact page that you looked at, and it's a different code again. So that's why it is sometimes important to just use the template, save these as elements. I like to personally go and create a universal element, which means that I can then access it in any email. I can go to universal, and I can then go and drag and drop this cart abandonment block in here. So you can see it's super simple. So that's all good. That's the browse abandonment. Now, the difference between this and the site abandonment is clear. So when we set up the site abandonment, which I'll show you shortly, there is something very specifically different about it, right? And the difference is that they have now not even gone as far as looking at different products. They kind of landed on the website, maybe through ads, maybe it was a general ad without leading to an actual product. They're not just sitting on the website. They kind of browse through, is there something I like? Do I like the look of the brand? Do I feel like they're trustworthy? Yes, no, make my decision, and then leave. And so this is very, very different. And we do want to make sure we're kind of talking about the same content, right? So you can see the way that this brand does it. Instead of showing dynamic content, you can populate some of your best sellers. You can showcase some of your category sections, and then you can go ahead and send a plain text email, and then you can go ahead and obviously send and show them different products. So you can say, hey, you may like some of these. So there are very specific ways to do it. Now with the site abandonment, this is kind of a quick one to set up. You can pretty much duplicate your browse abandonment because they are pretty similar. Just this time you don't want those codes in place. And so let's go see if they do have, so they don't actually have a site abandonment for me. So I'm going to say abandon. And so the difference here is that we're going to make it a metric trigger. So it will be a metric trigger, and we're going to say active on site. Okay, we're going to allow re-entry. I'm going to say 15 days. And here is where you add in all those same profile filters as before. So here you're going to say what someone has done, viewed product 0 times. So let's say 0 times since starting the flow. That's the main difference. And then what someone has done is placed order 0 times since starting the flow. And someone has done cart 0 times since starting the flow. And then the last one is the checkout. So this one has the most filters because you have to add in the viewed product as well since starting the flow. Perfect. And then we're just going to set it up the exact same way. We're going to confirm and save. It has now got that metric filter. And a metric is just an action they perform on the site that maybe Shopify doesn't have like a metric for, right? So here we want to add that time delay. This one we can make a little bit longer since they were a little bit less intentional. So let's just say 1 hour and 20 minutes. We'll send this out. Perfect. Then we're going to send out the first email. This one you can just keep to 2 emails instead. Time delay, 1 day. We're going to skip this email. And this one I would make a plain text email or something to that degree. And then your site abandonment is completely set up. Perfect. Now it's going to get a little bit more complicated because it is now the win-back flow. The win-back flow is slightly different, right? The way that the win-back flow works is it's basically people that have placed an order with you once before, especially if you're a repeat or a replenishable brand. So let's say you're a wellness brand, or let's say that you are a jewelry brand and they've bought a necklace from you before, but they've never bought another product. This flow is so important to try and get them back as a repeat customer, right? Our post-purchase should make sure it does all of that work for us, but there's going to be a natural lapse, right? And there's some main reasons why people don't become a repeat purchaser, or at least were a repeat purchaser and stop buying from us. Number one is the product maybe didn't work for them, especially in the wellness brand. We see this a lot. So many people become these win-back opportunities where they haven't placed an order with us again for the last 90 days, for example. But we know that the average customer should place an order with us every 30 to 40 days. And if they don't, then it's very likely that they kind of fallen off the wagon. And there's a few reasons, which again, the product didn't work for them. They probably used it incorrectly. Maybe the prices are too high for them to substantiate considering the outcome that they got. Maybe they're cutting prices in and costs in the time of a crisis. They maybe have a negative experience, or they found a competitor with better pricing. So there's a few things that we want to do here. By the way, another one is actually maybe if you had stock of something and it went out of stock. We see this a lot with wellness brands because things do go out of stock very easily. And so we have a very specific trigger for them. The trigger here is actually different. It's not a metric trigger. We like to use a segment trigger. It is so much better than the standard win-back flow that they set up. So just make sure that you do a win-back segment. And here, we want to make sure that they have not placed an order in the last, let's just say 90 days or whatever. But you don't really need this filter. I'll show you how to set it up correctly. And what you do want is you do want to filter out anyone that has placed an order 0 times since starting this flow, right? So if they get that first email, they place an order, they'll then filter out, they won't get the rest, which is important. And so what we like to do is in the first email, we kind of just want to reach out to them. It's not always price related. Sometimes they just need a little bit of a reminder. They need a little bit of, some reach back. And so the way that we usually set it up is we like to show them some other products that were similar to what they purchased before. We like to say, hey, look, it's been a while and we get it. Things come up, things happen in life and things get busy. And with the wellness brand, we'll try to kind of do a bit of guilting where we're like, hey, habit is super important. And so here are some other products that are very similar to the one that you tried before. Here are some reviews about it, blah, 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 and show some other use cases. So when you're tired, you can use this. So do the thinking work for them. Then we wait 2 days, and usually we like to select a specific time, and then we'll send an email number 2 with an offer. We're only going to extend this for like 48 hours. We like to make this our biggest offer, ideally. So this should be ideally your biggest offer, and it should try to win them back. Then we're going to wait 1 day, and we're going to send email number 3. Email number 3 is going to be that last push. And then email number 4 is the last email. And this is a plain text email from the founder. We love doing this because it adds a little personality. If they didn't buy because of price, if they didn't buy because of all those other things, what this does is it adds a little bit of humility behind the brand. And what's nice about this is we give them a chance to opt out or re-opt in, so we can start to remove customers instead of creating the sunset flow that actually damages our deliverability. So we like to use this as that option, and if they choose nothing, then we filter them out anyway, because it's going to be our best offer. So if we don't get them here, we want to make sure we suppress them after this point, kind of. So with that being said, that is the structure of the win back. So let's go and build it out in the back end, right? And then let's go take a look here. We're going to create this. Perfect. And so we're going to come here, and they do very likely have a template for this. So you can see they do have a little bit of a template. Now, the issue with this is that they have this weird setting, and I don't know why they do it this way, where you have to wait like 75 days. And so what we like to do instead is, before you set up the segment, go to lists and segments. And what you're going to do is you're going to create a segment, right? So let's go and create a segment over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to say win back opportunities. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a segment of people that place an order at least once over all time, for example, right? And so it's going to filter in these profiles, and then we're going to do and what someone has done, place an order 0 times in the last 90 days. You need to decide what period of time you consider a lapse, right? So let's just say that you are a clothing brand. For someone to repeat purchase, it's probably going to take a lot longer than 60 days or 70 days. And so don't base it on what wellness brands are doing or other brands are doing. Try and look into your data on what the average replenishment rate is or the average return rate is. Is it every 30 days, 40 days, 60 days, 90 days, maybe 120 days? You want to make sure that whatever that average is, you're sending them this email at that point. So let me go create this segment, right? Now what's going to happen is I'm going to go back to my flows, right, while that's populating. And I'm then going to go create my own flow. I'm going to build my own. I'm going to call it win back. And let's go here. And what's going to happen is I'm going to make it that if anyone has been added to a specific list, okay, and I'm going to make sure that I choose the list that I just created. So it might take a little bit of time, but you do want to make sure you choose that specific list, right? So let's just say that it was this list as an example. We're going to make sure that we don't allow re-entry. And we're going to add in this profile filter, which is that anyone that has placed an order 0 times since starting the flow. So only people that have actually not placed an order will come in through the entire flow, right? So this is just an example, but as it populates, you'll see that segment pop up and you'll choose that as the trigger. And then what you're going to do is you are going to add a time delay. So what I like to do is I will make sure that I add a day, and then I want to send it at my best sending time. So usually we see the most conversions for a lot of our brands in the evening at like an off time. So let's just say 7:17 p.m. Eastern. That is where we see the most conversions. I'm going to make sure that I optimize for that, and that's going to be my first email, right? Then we're going to do the exact same thing. Add the time delay. We're going to turn off smart sending because we really want to make sure they get this. Add a time delay. And then we're going to go ahead and send the next email. This is going to be the reminder email. Time delay. Next email. And then let's go and add the last time delay. And then the email. And what we like to do is at this point, we like to make sure that they're actually getting a little bit of a property update. So I like to add this. And in this, I like to add a property tag where, for example, let's see what I want to do. Let's create a new property. We're going to add it as text, win back. We're going to make it win back not, for example. So what's going to happen is anyone that exits out of this and has not placed an order is now going to get this tag on their profile, and then we can create a segment of anyone that has this tag of, you know, they've never engaged with an email, they exited out of this flow and they still didn't place an order. We can segment them into a suppress list, and it will continuously suppress those people. So we do like to add a property tag just to make it clear that these people have not converted. We don't want to keep them in our funnel. It's just going to take billing, it's going to increase our pricing and billing, and it's going to ruin our deliverability because they're not even engaging. So with that being said, that's exactly how to set up the win back flow and sequence. Super simple. Next one is actually the post-purchase. So post-purchase, I have a completely different video about. I like to go into detail about this because it's one of the most underrated and most intricate forms or flows that you should have. And so what I've done is I'm going to link that video here somewhere on the screen, and I'll show you exactly how to build it out in detail. For now though, you can pause the video and look at the structure. The way that we do a post-purchase flow, and the intention of the post-purchase flow, is to try and get increase in AOV, repeat customers, and also try to get them onto a subscription service if we have that. And so what we treat the post-purchase flow is, or as I suppose, is increasing those metrics, trying to push them to subscriptions, and also trying to get reviews from them. So we like to encompass everything. What will happen with most brands is they create multiple segments for all of that. They create a VIP flow, then they create a hey, thanks for purchasing, then they create a reorder reminder, cross-sell flow. All of that is just noise. Building it into one encompassing flow is one of the most powerful things that you can do. And so what we do is when someone has purchased a product and they've only purchased it once, we send them a, hey, thank you for ordering. This is an email from the founder, like genuinely just personally thanking you. Over the next few days, I really want you to pay attention to your emails. This is what's going to be happening, blah, blah, blah. So that's exactly what happens. Then if it's a wellness brand or whatever it is, we're then sending them, hey, how to use your product correctly in the next coming days when you get your order. Here's exactly how to use it. So dosage guides, use cases. Let's say that you've sent them clothing. We want to show them how to style that specific piece of clothing that they tried on, or that specific category of clothing. Let's say that they purchased, I don't know, a cookbook. We want to show them, hey, here's the best recipes in that cookbook that you can try. You can think about it for any sub niche, like really any kind of niche. If you are a little bit more of like a wellness tech company that sells brands, maybe products like Whoop, where it tells you your health data, giving them an email on how to read that data, how best to get the most out of that product. And the thing that this does is it gives them an incredible customer experience, and then it also makes them so excited to order from you again because the customer experience has been astronomical, and their perception of your product actually increases. If you think about it, and this is how I think about the post-purchase flow, let's say you walk into a restaurant, you sit down, and you only get greeted, a little bit late, and they take a while to bring your first drink order. They take a while to ask for your food order, and then you order your food and they take a really long time to bring your food. You already have distaste for that food. It doesn't matter if it's the best food in the world. You're going to say, flip, but I wish that they had better service. It's a pity about that. And it leaves a sour taste in your mouth, and you're not going to recommend it to people because that food wasn't good enough to recommend it. Whereas if you think about your favorite experience, your favorite restaurant, a lot of that is actually because of the service delivery. It was the way that you were greeted. It was the quick work to find out what you wanted. Even if you had a bad meal, if they suddenly gave you a free meal on top of that, you suddenly have a better perception of them, and you have benefit of the doubt. You say, yeah, that didn't, it wasn't the best meal, but actually it was such incredible service. I feel like they just had an off night. So it's like this different narrative that's being built in their brain, that if they get exceptional customer service about the product that they purchase, they're probably going to purchase from you again or recommend you. So there's nothing negative that can come out of this post-purchase flow. Then what we like to do is we like to wait a period of time until they've used that product completely. So let's say that it takes 21 days to use up the product from the time they receive it, or 30 days to use the product, and then we usually see reorders. We then want to give them a reminder to reorder, and we actually want to upsell them and cross-sell them. So not only are we going to say, hey, you ordered this product, but did you know we had a higher milligram of that product? And by the way, we also have these other products that go really well with it. So now you're increasing AOV, and you're also increasing the repeat purchase rate because they are being reminded that they should probably place an order again. So even like a little throw in about how important habit is, how important it is to have this other piece along with their clothing that they bought, whatever it is. Then what we do is once they place an order twice, so let's say they come in here, they get that reminder email, and they place another order, we're going to re-enter them into this flow. And this time, we're basing it on whether they purchased twice. We're going to wait an hour after that, and we're going to say, hey, really thank you for coming back. Did you know you could save on your order, and you can save every other time if you subscribe and save? And then they're going to suddenly, now we have new people going to our subscribe and save, and then we request a review. Because if they've placed an order twice, they like us enough to leave a positive review. No one who places an order twice was unhappy with us the first time. Usually that's not the case. So we want to make sure we do that. Then we send another refill reminder, and then we'll push them into a VIP flow. So that is essentially the structure of the post-purchase flow. So if you want me to go ahead and show you the structure of how to build subscription flows, especially the subscription flow for getting people to start a subscription flow to make sure you can upsell within their subscriptions without getting them to pause or cancel, and then also a most important subscription flow for encouraging paused or cancellations on their subscription to renew them. If you want me to go over those flows and build a video around that, I'm happy to go ahead and do that. But if you are a company that is actually just looking for someone to come and fulfill these things for you because you have way too much on your plate, you just want a team to come in, deliver all of this for you, go down below, book in a call. We would be happy to work with you. But with that being said, I'll see you in the next one. Just leave a comment down below on any other videos or tips that you want to see with email marketing.